But I'm telling you, no, we have our struggles too. We don't do everything perfect. We definitely have to fight battles every day. And sometimes you're just beat. I mean, you're just like worn out from all the fighting that you have to do all the time, it feels like. And so right now, this is one of those kind of next battles for us, essentially.
And I mean, you mentioned as far as like the field trips, like basically if we're not able to go on a field trip with her, it creates, I mean, basically an issue. I mean, because you had gone on, I think, the first field trip with her, and that kind of resorted kind of in the end as kind of like a meltdown where we kind of had to, I mean, basically you had to like carry her from I think it was like a farm, off the farm to kind of like where I was able to pick you up and we were able to head back. So, I mean, it ended with a meltdown. And then there was another field trip that was going to kind of a similar location that we felt, and neither of us were able to go on the field trip. So unfortunately, we just had to basically call out for the day because we were like, we don't think that they have the resources to be able to do just what you were able to do on that field trip with her. So heaven forbid there's another meltdown. They they don't have the staff for, I mean, two teachers and one para. They don't have the staff to watch all the other students and then be able to work with our oldest if she's having a meltdown appropriately. It would more so, I mean, I think it would be not a good situation for our oldest to be in if, I mean, if she's having a meltdown and they don't have the resources or the manpower to basically kind of work her through her meltdown. So we basically just had to kind of call out and say like, okay, like we're not able to go on this field trip. Hopefully our schedules will free up and we can take her on another one. But it's sad when we basically have to make the judgment call that if we're not able to attend the field trip, she's not able to go on it because we don't think that the school has the adequate staff or one-on-one para to basically assist with her field trip situation.
Yeah, and I would honestly say, like, for me, the most challenging part of this would honestly be that they're also using this kind of like red flag, green flag system. I don't know what you would call it, kind of like a good job, bad job, thumbs up, thumbs down. I don't know. Red and green is what they call it. And so the system is, it's normal. Every pre-K, every elementary school has like this kind of reward behavioral system. But the issue that I've kind of had with it is that it seems like the schools have a hard time understanding autism truly. And so oftentimes they will kind of give a red card to a behavior that is not necessarily bad behavior, it's autistic behavior. And so some of the things that have been kind of flagged are things like running away, for example. And I'm like, my kid has an elopement risk written into the IEP. So elopement is part of autism. There should definitely not be a penalty for that.
Well, I was just going to chime in. I was going to say, right in the IEP, we have that she's elopement risk. So, therefore, I mean, that should kind of void kind of like, oh, good behavior, bad behavior. Like, clearly something else is going on here. And I think the other one that we had noticed as well was, I think it was like volume control, where there she was getting kind of a red choice or bad choice or misbehaving because she was having trouble controlling the volume of her voice. And honestly, I mean, I'm not sure if we have that in the IEP. I mean, we should because I mean that goes hand in hand with kind of autism as far as like the audio regulatory volume control. So I mean, it seems like there's a few items that are kind of being penalized as bad behavior when it's more so the autism kind of playing a role there.
Yeah, like I would definitely say me as an adult, I have trouble with like volume control. I feel like you guys probably have heard it on the podcast where I'll just be really loud all of a sudden and not really
No,
notice. I
no,
try to edit it.
no, they have control to turn down the volume when
They
you're
just mute
talking,
me.
turn it up when I'm talking.
Yeah, I definitely like I do a lot of editing on this podcast. So for all y'all listening live, I am sorry. But that's part of autism. It's that volume control, the inability to really like understand or appreciate when you're getting too loud or too quiet according to like your surroundings. So flagging something like that as like a red behavior to me is like really inappropriate for autism. And so that's really been a struggle for us because our kids have been getting kind of flagged, or at least the oldest one has been flagged for things that I think are clearly autistic behaviors. And some of these things are even in the IEP. And so that seems like something that definitely needs to be addressed. And we don't want to lay all our cards on the table because this is kind of in the process right now, so we don't want to really necessarily out ourselves with everything that we're doing behind the scenes. But we are going through processes to try to address these things as amicably as possible because, again, I have a lot of respect for the school. I know that, again, it's probably really a staffing issue or training issue or something like that. I think these teachers really do care about the kids. I just feel like there might just not be enough or adequate support for them.
Oh, sure. I mean, I think it's more so a staffing concern than anything else. Because I mean, obviously, the teachers got into teaching for a reason because they want to be, with kids, and have these interactions and such. I wouldn't necessarily say anything bad that they're going out of their way to be or do something wrong by any means, but I think sometimes they might not remember exactly what is in the IEP when they're incorporating rules or behaviors that have already been kind of in place longer than our daughter has, for example. So, she started back in, I think, October at this new school. So, the rules have already been in place before she got there. So, it's more so keeping in the back of your mind, like, oh, okay, she has kind of special rules that help her kind of navigate. As far as the IEP, help her navigate her education plan. So, I mean, I understand she's not the only one in the class, so there are other children with IEP. So it's just, I'm guessing, trying to recall, oh, okay, this child needs this accommodation. Let me make sure that that is met. Okay, it kind of doesn't work out well with the rules that are in place. Okay, we need to make a modification for this child. So, unless you're constantly reviewing each of the files for each of the kids, the special needs children, it can be difficult to try and remember off the top of your head who needs what accommodation when.
Yeah, and so I called this episode Failure to Thrive because the process of special needs, essentially accommodations in the public education system, really kind of reminds me of when you have that like newborn baby and they kind of label them a failure to thrive, which is essentially like they're not growing appropriately, they're not meeting milestones appropriately, things like that. I feel like there is kind of like this equivalency when it comes to the special education system with those kiddos that are kind of unintentionally left behind. Like, if my kid is not supported in the playground, if they're not supported on these field trips or things like that, they will fail to thrive as a child. They will fail to thrive socially. They will fail to thrive academically. They will fail to thrive emotionally because if they're getting kind of punished essentially for things that are outside of their control because they're neurologically wired to behave certain ways, this is all things that will compound together and create an environment where this kid is a failure to thrive situation. And so I really wanted to kind of shine a spotlight on that because I am sure that there's other parents out there that are struggling with the same thing that we're struggling with. We do, again, have plans to kind of address it appropriately. There are things that you can do. You do have rights. If you are not sure how to navigate this sort of thing, there are advocates out there that are available to you. You can hire an advocate to come in and sit on an IEP meeting with you to help you navigate that system. Each state tends to have their version of some sort of parent advocacy. I know in Maryland, when we were there, it was called Parents Place of Maryland. Over here, ours is called Parent to Parent. Each state has a program, but they each have a different name. So you'd have to do a little bit of Googling to find yours. But they've got advocates that can help you with these IEP meetings and navigating your rights. They know the laws. And so they are not lawyers, but they can tell you what the law says. And so that's kind of what I would encourage as a first step for anybody who is struggling through the same thing. Thanks for watching this clip from the Embracing Autism podcast. Hang out with us live Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and remember to subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell for reminders when we go live. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.